Hello everyone and welcome back to Block IoT. Today we have a very exciting session, and at least I've been looking forward to this session for a very long time. I'm pretty sure most of you know Andreas is one of the very active member of the community. I love his work and I'm very excited to have him online. And we are going to talk about a very exciting project that he's been working on. You can use this open source project free of charge in a different application. Andreas will dive into the details and overall the technical aspect. With this cool project, basically you can integrate a lot of OT and PLC HMI data in a centralized location and do a lot of logging, query the data without any single line of code. I don't want to take too much of the session. Let's just start speaking with Andreas. So Andreas, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. I know you do a lot of this open source and cool project in your free time, and I personally appreciate it, and I'm pretty sure many other people do as well. So if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what is your background, what do you do at the moment, and overall, let's just get warm up and see how is Andreas.
Okay, thank you very much. Great to be here. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Yeah, so yeah, my background is I mostly come from the IT, let's say. So for a long time I was an Oracle specialist, an Oracle expert. So I did a lot of work with Oracle, setting up clusters, but also doing projects, and also most of the time together with SCADA HMI systems. So in my special case, with WinCC Open Architecture. Yeah, I hope you know this. Pretty cool and very open and flexible SCADA system from Siemens. I was doing a lot of also consulting all over the world, so I traveled a lot before my current state in Siemens, let's say. Yeah. So now I'm doing a little bit more in the direction of research, this Frankenstein Gateway, so this automationgateway.com. It started because I was curious about a new programming language. It was Kotlin. Yeah, I hope you know Kotlin. It's based on the GVM, and I personally say it's the now more cooler and better Java, let's say. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much for the great intro. So overall, we are going to talk about one of your project, which is called Automation Gateway, or you call it Frankenstein Gateway, as a listener might see on your background, and they know the story behind. Yeah, I love that. So your idea was basically integrating different OT data or from various devices such as PLC, which they can talk, OPC UA, or they can talk MQTT and so on. So you bring all those data into a central or in your gateway, and then the user can query those data with different ways, such as directly from the GraphQL and so on. Did I understand it well? Is that the idea behind the project?
Basically, you're absolutely right. You described it very well. So initially, to be honest, the initial idea was I had the feeling that a lot of IT guys struggle with getting data from OPC UA servers. Yeah, because OPC UA is pretty cool and a pretty great protocol and interface and so, but it is maybe too hard for IT guys. Yeah, and so I thought, why not create let's say, gateway to OPC UA servers so that IT guys can access the data. In the first step, it was GraphQL. So GraphQL is, I don't know if you know it, but it is, I sometimes say it's the better REST. Yeah, it's very similar to REST, but has a lot of more benefits, let's say. And yeah, that was the starting point. And then I also thought, because I did a lot of work with MQTT brokers also in proof of concepts and so, then I thought, hey, MQTT is so easy to use. Yeah, in every language you have simple libraries, just connect, publish, and subscribe, and you can do crazy work with it. Yeah? And then I also thought, yeah, let's make an interface in the gateway so that it acts as an MQTT broker, let's say, somehow. But the point is when you subscribe to a topic and the topic has to follow rules, yeah, in the naming, then behind the scenes, a connection is open to the OPC UA server and the subscription is done. So then the data is passed through and you get it as an MQTT client. Huh? And because in my former time, I did a lot of things with databases and I'm still very, very heavily interested in everything around data, data processing, streaming data, different databases. So I thought, then why not also create a logger, because I have the gateway and it collects data from OPC UA servers. Why not also have the option to write this data to databases? And then I started with, I can't remember anymore with what kind of database I started, but I had that JDBC interface, yeah. So to write the data to MySQL databases, PostgreSQL databases, and to create DB. DB is some kind of a database based on Elasticsearch. And then recently I had an option to log the data to QuestDB. It's a really cool and nice upcoming time series database. And so I added one more database option. And yeah, sometimes it is also, how to say, a little bit my playground. Yeah, if I find a new database and I think it's cool, then the first thing what I do is to add a plugin, let's say, to the gateway to also log the data to this database. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And also, for example, to Apache Kafka, you can also log the data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because you mentioned the name, yeah, Frankenstein. Yeah,
So yeah,
initially it was just the automation gateway, and then I posted a lot of things about it on LinkedIn. Yeah, and then one of my colleagues said, "Hey, oh my God, what kind of tool is this? Yeah, it is. It combined so many different open source libraries. Yeah, this is like the Frankenstein of open
yeah,
source software. So yeah, and then I thought, hey, Frankenstein is a cool name. A lot of open source projects
yeah.
have funny names. So yeah, and then so the Frankenstein was born. Let's
That's
say.
That's great to know. I think, yeah, that's what I also figure out when I heard the name exactly. It comes from the movie Frankenstein. I love it actually. Great and very
Yeah.
smart name for the gateway. So yeah,
Mm.
thank you again, thank you very much for more information. And for sure, I hope that you all understand what we are going to discuss and what we are going to show. Definitely, again, Andreas is very active on LinkedIn, and if you're following him, you might heard about this project. But unfortunately, as I said, I don't really see a lot of activity about it because it's free. It's open source. He has spent a lot of time and he did a lot of heavy lifting for you, and you can use that project. So of course, in a traditional way, you can start, doing some your own coding, let's say in Python or Java and so on, to read the PLC data or even Node-RED to read the PLC data and write it to any DB and then interface it with another system. But what
Mhm.
Automation Gateway or Frankenstein Gateway does, with just a simple configuration file, you define your server and you define where to store the data. Everything is done. So basically, you don't need to write any single line of code, and your data will be integrated, and you can your IT team can query all those data with different ways. We'll get into the details. I'm very excited about this, and you're going to have some demos and hopefully some hands-on to help you get started with this very cool tool if you haven't done already. So
Mm.
without further ado, let's just jump into the technical details and the demo and overall more deep dive into the technical of this gateway.
Again, it's a rich thing.
All right. So after the introduction, I know most of you are technical and you're waiting to see some technical and deep dive discussion about the technical aspect of the Frankenstein Gateway. So Andreas, we already touched a little bit in the introduction, but I wonder if you could tell us, because we know right now what Frankenstein Gateway does, but could you tell us maybe some real life application for such a gateway? Like, have you used it before, or what do you see? Like, who can benefit the most from this gateway?
First of all, you can use it again to get data from OPC UA servers and also from multiple OPC UA servers. So you can connect multiple OPC UA servers to it and then have a single access point. And this access point can also be another OPC UA server. So the Frankenstein gateway itself is also an OPC UA server. Or again, you can get the data out of it via MQTT as a MQTT client or via GraphQL. Yeah. So it's like some kind of a data aggregator, let's say. Yeah.
Right.
And but it's not only about OPC UA. So I also have added a module where you can use this PLC for X project. So that means you can also get data from PLCs. So like an S7 or like from Modbus or so. And then you can collect all those data and have a central point of access. Yeah. Or what it also can do is, yeah, this logging stuff, of course, then it can also log all of the data to a database or to a streaming technology like Apache Kafka. Yeah? And then you can do analytics on top of that. Yeah? For example, you can also get the data from OPC UA, and then you can write it, log it, not only to database, you can also log it to another MQTT broker. And there also you can choose to have it in a plain JSON format, or just the raw value, just a single value, or you can also use SparkPlugB message format. Yeah. So it's not the full SparkPlugB, it's just a message format.
Okay. Oh, perfect. I think you nailed a very good point. So this gateway is not just about OPC UA. As Andreas mentioned, it supports many different connections to physical devices and PLCs, such as Modbus or even S7, through another open source project which is called PLC4X, if I'm not mistaken, Andreas, right? So
Yep.
that's also a very cool project I've seen, and it's the implementation is in Java. And again, it's not about OPC UA. So imagine you have a gateway, open source free gateway that integrate all the data from various sources, from PLCs, OPC UAs, and even from different MQTT publisher, let's say, or node. And then you aggregate all those data and you can query them from one single place. And then at the same time, you can log those data to different databases.
Maybe just one more note about here. I mean, I personally never have been a graphical user interface developer, so the configuration is done via a YAML file, and that in a very simple way. So just with some lines of YAML, you can do all of the stuff, yeah. And also with wildcards, for example, because uh, sometimes there are tools out there where you have a graphical user interface, and then you have to maybe drag and drop every single tag from your OPC UA server to get it in, yeah, and that is somehow ridiculous. Yeah, no one will do that. Yeah,
That's
so
right.
wildcards or browsing is also supported for OPC UA servers,
Perfect.
and also maybe one more note. So from my history, I always did a lot of work to how to say to improve performance, to gain, to get the maximum out of also from our SCADA systems, and so I also have always a little bit of focus on high performance, let's say. So with the gateway, for example, it is easily possible to get 50,000 value changes per second from an OPC server. Of course, if the OPC server is able to handle that, to get the data out, 50,000 value changes per second, and write it to a database. Yeah?
That's
And
amazing.
that only from one OPC server. So you can also have connected a second one. So you can easily 100,000 value changes per second. And it can handle that. And to be honest, I've used behind the scenes a reactive framework from Eclipse. It is called, WordX, and that one is also really, really cool. So because that is, let's say, the backbone of all of the communication behind the scenes. Yeah.
Very impressive. Those are great numbers. Overall, I wanted to ask what basically motivated you to start this project. Was it just for you had some spare time, you wanted to learn something new, or you had a customer or a project in mind and you started the development of this project?
A very good question. Yeah. To be honest, I just started it because I wanted to learn Kotlin at that point in time, and the language was new to me. Yeah. And I thought, or I have read about it, that it is cool, and I wanted to learn it. And I thought, why not create something useful? Yeah. So not only learn Kotlin, create something useful on top of it. And yeah, it was also, I think that at that time I learned to program a little bit more in the functional style. Yeah. And Kotlin is a good mixture, let's say, of functional and the classic way procedural style, yeah, and object oriented style. So it has all of these components, and you can really program really cool in a functional way. And I personally really like that. Yeah. And yeah, and as said before, so it started small, yeah, with just being a GraphQL gateway to OPC UA server, and then added more and more features. Yeah.
I love that. Personally, I believe professionals should learn by, doing things, not just reading and, listening to some podcasts
Mm.
and, some maybe YouTube videos and reading the books, but doing things, you learn a lot more things that you never can think about, basically. So great job on that. So you already mentioned that you use Kotlin for implementing the gateway and for programming. But I wonder, like, based on your experience after doing this project, did you like this programming language, and what did you like or what did you dislike about Kotlin? And overall, do you suggest Kotlin for OT environment and automation professional? Because again,
Mm.
there are many programming languages: Python, Java, JavaScript, C, C++, you name it. But
Mm.
Kotlin, do you see is easy enough? Not easy enough, is convenient enough to interact with and implement a project? And overall, what did you like and dislike about this
Mm.
programming?
To be honest, I really felt in love with Kotlin. And as I said before, this a great mixture of functional and object oriented. So you can do or program in any kind of style what you prefer. And I would really, how to say, advise everyone to go more into functional style. Yeah, makes your life sometimes maybe a little bit harder, but at the end of the day, easier and more stable. And also the code is really much more concise, so you don't have to write so much code. Yeah. Kotlin initially, I think it is one of the main language for Android programming now. Yeah, maybe from there it has a little bit this feeling, let's say, that it is mostly used for graphical user interfaces. But to be honest, I think it should really be also used more and more for background things, like what I have built. Yeah, and one big benefit, of course, it is based on Java, based on the JVM, let's say. Yeah, so you can use the full ecosystem of the JVM and Java world. Yeah? And that is, of course, a big
Perfect. Yeah.
plus. Yeah.
Okay, so that was my next question. So I think you already answered. So I assume Kotlin is also cross-platform. It's not just tied to Windows. Is that correct?
Absolutely, because it is Java based, or it runs on the JVM. Yeah,
Okay.
and also what I also did. Great that you mentioned this multi-platform. I mean, this is not really directly related to Kotlin, but if someone of you have already heard about this Graal VM, yeah, this is some kind of a next generation Java virtual machine. And with that one, it is also possible to generate or to execute ahead of time compilation. Yeah. So you can really compile it to a native executable on Linux or on Windows. Yeah? So because a lot of people complain about Java, the startup time is slow, yeah, and it needs some time so to run, yeah, and when the optimizer starts and when the just-in-time compiler compiles it to native code, and so yeah. But with that one, with the GraalVM, you can compile Java code and also, let's say, JVM code to native executables. It's really also very cool. Just as a sideline here.
Yeah. No, that's a great tip because, for people, especially like myself, I do a bit of programming based on, the requirement, for this project or even just my free time. But maybe I don't have enough time or maybe motivation to try new programming language. That's great to hear from, expert like yourself. And thank you for sharing the experience with Kotlin. So it looks like it's a promising programming language. And so for someone like me who is kind of more focused on Python and maybe C, we should start learning something new because it looks like
Mm.
with all this new VM and so on, could be a future for the industrial automation as well.
I mean, I also really like Python because of its simplicity, let's say, yeah, and you can really do a lot of things very fast. But to be honest, I personally would never create, let's say, a bigger project, or I would not build that with Python. Yeah, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. So definitely you prefer Kotlin over Python for sure. I mean, that's
Uh,
maybe my
It,
personal.
it depends. It
Yeah.
depends. Yeah, if you just want to make something very quickly, yeah, just and also I have to say or to admit, let's say, yeah, at that point when I started the gateway, yeah, it how to say, there were not so much OPC UA libraries available, yeah,
Mm,
and this is changing also. So it is getting also now easier, for example, using Python and connect to OPC UA, yeah.
no.
But still, you have to know how OPC UA works and so, yeah. I would not say I don't like Python. I really like it, but it has its use case, yeah.
Not a game, it's a rich thing.
Okay, so now we get into the fun part, which is hands-on. One of my favorite. I always like to see things, and that's how things makes more sense to myself. I'm pretty sure many of you are the same. So I would like to ask Andreas, if you don't mind, kind of show us, where we can get or download the automation gateway or Frankenstein Gateway. By the way, do you prefer Frankenstein Gateway or automation gateway? Which one should we call it?
Whatever you like more. So it doesn't
Okay.
really matter.
Yeah, so we call it Frankenstein Gateway. So we are going to, Andreas, if you don't mind, just show us where can we download it and what's the process overall. I'm pretty sure there is an instruction on the GitHub and your website as well. But if you don't mind, to just walk us through how to install it and overall. And then the exciting part is Andreas has prepared a few different use cases and scenarios that you can use the gateway and configure it. So he will show you in a hands-on demonstration. And I don't want to talk too much anymore. And I just want to give the stage all to you, Andreas. So we can jump into the details and show the demos and so on.
Yeah, let me show you my screen. So I've already shared it. And yeah, here you see where you can download the automation gateway. So it is on GitHub. Here is my name and then automation gateway. And yeah, there's also a lot of documentation here, just giving a rough overview what it is doing. Yeah, you see here the stars, 196. I hope after this session I will have some more stars.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, there's also a big picture of it. Yeah, and also how things are getting connected together via the gateway. And of course, there's also a documentation how you can get it then up and running. So you can just git clone it from Git and then build it and then create this YAML configuration file and then start it up and having fun, hopefully. Yeah? So, and yeah, let's now come to some demonstration what I've prepared. So let's first start with a very simple one. So in that case, we just connect multiple OPC UA servers to the gateway, and then we have on top of it again an OPC UA server integrated in the Frankenstein Gateway, and this one then will expose all of the collected tags or nodes from the connected OPC UA servers. Yeah. See here. So this is now this YAML configuration file. You see here drivers, and with drivers I mean how to say connected OPC UA servers or connected MQTT brokers or also connected PLCs. And in that case, we have here the section for OPC UA. So here we define the connectivity to the OPC UA server. I will not go into details here. And then you can specify here the servers. And in that case, we have an OPC UA server integrated. So server means the Frankenstein Gateway is then server, an OPC UA server, the port, and of course you can also configure here a lot of other things also for the connectivity to OPC UA. And yeah, maybe also it is worth to note I created a YAML description file, let's say, and with that done, you can, when you have your YAML file open in an editor like this, then you can choose the schema, and then this one will support you with IntelliSense. So you see immediately what kind of options you can put in here. So that is really helpful, because otherwise you have to every time go to the documentation, see how the things are named and so. Yeah. So, but here we will have then the OPC UA server, and here is now the special thing. Here we define the topics, what we collect and publish in this OPC UA server. And here we have this special, let's say, syntax, what I use. So here I say, okay, I want to have the data from an OPC UA server. And this can also be, for example, PLC, in the case of PLC4X, and it can also be MQTT. But now we have here OPC UA, and now I say here, okay, I want to get data tags from the demo1, and this you see here. So this is this OPC UA server. Sorry, this one. And then I can specify here. I can say here node or path. When I say node, then I can specify one single node, but then I have to specify all the nodes. Or I can say path, and then I can Then I can use here a browsing path, let's say. Yeah? It starts with objects in OPC UA and so on and so on. And then I can use here wildcards. Yeah? So that means everything from this OPC UA server below dynamic, I will have included in my OPC UA server. And yeah, you see here from the first OPC UA server, from the second one, and I also have here an S7 connected via OPC UA, a virtual one. And yeah, just start it. Let's see what happens. Start up. And then I will use the Unified Automation UA expert to connect now to the OPC UA gateway. This one. And then we see here OPC UA, and now we see here the data from both of the connected OPC UA servers. From 3, yeah, S7 and 7. And here, yeah, I've specified the dynamic one, and I drag and drop it to here, and then I see here now the data from this OPC UA server. So this is like aggregation, yeah, connecting multiple OPC UA servers and then have a central access point. And you can also write data back. Yeah, maybe I forgot to mention that. So you can also write data to here, and then the data is written back to the origin OPC UA server. So it's a very simple one. Yeah. So let's switch to the next one. So now we will start to add a non-OPC UA server to the gateway. In that case, an MQTT broker. And this is the MQTT broker running at my home. So where I have all my, let's say, smart home automation data in my MQTT broker. So just to show to you, so this is the broker. And here I have a lot of data from a boiler, gas meter, power meters, photovoltaic, and so on. And here also some temperature sensors and so on. And so now we have the second one. So, and now I just added here to the driver section, the MQTT section. And here I have a one MQTT connection to my MQTT broker at home. And in that case, I say the source is a JSON. And in that case, I say it is a custom JSON. So not the, the standard JSON format, what I have defined in my in the automation gateway. And here I specify from where to get the value, and this here can be a JSON notation path or so. Yeah, and where is the timestamp in milliseconds, or maybe there's a timestamp in the ISO format. Then you can also specify. And in the OPC UA server now, in the server, I added now here some again topic paths, which I want to have integrated in this OPC UA server. Start that one. I should first stop the other one. So now it will connect to 3 OPC UA servers plus this MQTT broker, and all together is published in the Frankenstein OPC UA server. When I do here now a rebrowse, then we see here now the OPC UA section as before, but we also have here now MQTT. And here we have now the home, and you see now that the data coming from the MQTT broker, transformed to an OPC UA. So that means if you have MQTT broker somewhere and data in, you can publish that one then as a OPC UA server. Yeah? Because and that for sure can also happen. A lot of software or machines or whatever have a OPC UA connectivity as a client to get data from somewhere, but they maybe don't have an MQTT option to connect and to get data. Yeah? So then you can use the gateway to get data from MQTT and publish it on an OPC UA server. So and now let's come to the third one. So in that case, I just use here now the GraphQL server and also the MQTT server. So below here we have the same, 3 OPC UA servers connected as source, and also the MQTT broker. And then I will just show how you can then get out the data via GraphQL query, and also how to get the data via an MQTT client. Yeah? And again, I want to emphasize here this MQTT server. Yeah? So sometimes people think when they see this, I get the data from OPC UA servers and then write it to an MQTT broker, and then the data is stored again somewhere. no, that's not the case. This MQTT server is it has the MQTT server interface, so a client connects to it, and then when it subscribes to a topic, then the gateway will subscribe to the source topic in the right OPC UA server and then pass through the data. Yeah? That means if no client is connected here, then no data is fetched from any OPC UA server. Yeah, that's very important. Okay. Number 3. Stop this one. And here we have the configuration file. Yeah, this one stays the same, but now we have here server GraphQL and MQTT. And also, just a note, of course, you can also add here the OPC UA server. Yeah, so you can combine and mix everything all the time together. Yeah? So now let's open. This is a very simple GraphQL client tool. So this makes your life as a GraphQL developer, let's say, easier because it fetches from the GraphQL server, in that case from Frankenstein. It is getting the documentation. So, and that is also one big benefit of GraphQL, and also maybe one reason why I love also GraphQL, because when you come to a GraphQL server, compared to a REST server, you don't need any documentation, yeah, because you come to the server and then you can use a tool like this and you get immediately the documentation. So you see already what kind of functions the GraphQL server provides to you, and also with data types and so on. And this is really helpful. Yeah. So, but yeah, let's now just read 2 tags. Yeah, and in that case, it's a query in GraphQL, and you read 1 tag from this OPC UA server and one tag from another OPC UA server. Yeah? Then I can just execute it, and then you see here the current value. When I press again, then you see it is changing. And that is now really a read request to the OPC UA servers. Yeah? But also interesting here, yeah, GraphQL, yeah, supports that, and also the gateway. You execute 1 query, but you get data from 2 different OPC UA servers, or maybe more. Yeah? And of course, I can also write data to OPC UA servers. Let's check here. I think this one is it. And yeah, then I can also do a mutation in GraphQL. This is called, and then I write the value to the tag. And you see it changes here now in the OPC UA server in the source. Yeah? So it is written from the GraphQL server, from the gateway back to the origin source, to the OPC UA server. And also again, you can also specify here multiple sources, so multiple OPC UA servers. So with 1 call, you can write multiple destinations. And also one benefit, just to note here, of GraphQL is GraphQL also supports subscriptions. For that, then you need a WebSocket connection, of course, but that is very important, yeah, in the IoT stuff. So you can subscribe to value, and every time when it changes, you get notified immediately. So you don't have to do all the time a read or a cyclic read or so. Yeah, that's also important compared to REST. So in REST, there is no WebSocket, there is no subscribe. So and now let's jump to logging to databases. In that case, I've chosen an InfluxDB, the QuestDB, just for demonstration. Again, our OPC UA servers. I think the picture is maybe a little bit wrong. I have added some more OPC UA servers, so not only 2. I think I've connected 5 or so. Let's check. So yeah, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different OPC UA servers connected to Frankenstein. Also the MQTT and the servers we have here. And then we have here now the section about the loggers. And here you can specify InfluxDB, for example, yeah, and QuestDB. And also, just to mention here, you can also specify here multiple destinations. So in theory, you can write to 2 or 3 Influx databases. If that makes sense, is another question, but you can do it. And also worth to note here is, because I write the data to Influx and to a QuestDB, so to 2 databases, and I can also add here a Kafka broker, for example. And the point is, the data is fetched only once from the OPC UA server. So that means to the OPC UA server, we only have one connection and only one subscription. Yeah? The gateway is then distributing the data to multiple databases. Yeah? This is also not to overload OPC UA servers, because sometimes OPC UA servers have limited resources and you cannot connect multiple times. Yeah? And of course, it also reduces the load from the source. This is the QuestDB. And here I have created a table where I will write the data to. Just to check now, so there's no data in here right now. And when I start it now, startups connects to all of the OPC servers, and then it's doing the browsing, yeah, because I'm using here wildcards. And also for the QuestDB, I have added a way more OPC servers, and really with a lot of data. So each OPC server has roughly here 2,600 tags. So overall, we have maybe 10,000 tags or so. And yeah, and all of the data is now written to the Quest database. And we see here already when I query the data. This is also a cool thing about QuestDB. It is a time series database, but it has SQL, and you can also create additional tables and also do join and all of the great stuff what you can do with SQL. Yeah? And yeah, this is a simple aggregation just to see how many tag values we have now collected from which system. Query it again, because it should increase. And in parallel, I have also written the database to InfluxDB. In that case, I just use Grafana to visualize that. Yeah, now we see the data. And this one comes now from this Influx database. Yeah, you see here all the the tags, and you can choose that one. And then this one doesn't have any data. There's currently something wrong a little bit with this Grafana dashboard, yeah. But now you see the data from the MQTT broker, for example. Yeah, everything stored in the Influx database. Let me just show you one more thing. So now I connect here with an MQTT client to my Frankenstein Gateway, and I will subscribe. There are internal topics, let's say. If the gateway has a logger enabled, then we can see here some metrics about the logging. Let's connect it. So we see here now the two loggers, and we see how many web values are going into the gateway and how many values are written to the database. So we see here in the QuestDB we have a way more. Well, because I have added here much more topics and different OPC servers. Yeah? And let me now increase the load a little bit so that they produce more simulated values. Let's first turn on second one, third one, second one. Let's change this to 100 milliseconds. You see already now we are logging 110,000 value changes per second to the Influx database. Maybe that is already a little bit too much for the database. Of course, when we now query the database here now, let's see how the values are increasing. Yeah, we can see a lot of values. Yeah, 1 million, 1.5, and so on. So you can see, you can log a lot of data. So, and the last one, yeah, I think that is not a special one. It's more or less the same as before, but now we log the data to an MQTT broker and a Kafka broker. Let's first turn off the load. Yeah, the sources are the same, MQTT, and now I say as a logger MQTT, and now we get the data and log it to MQTT, and also in parallel to Kafka. And yeah, when I connect now, and this is now really logging data, so copying data from the source to a third-party MQTT broker, right? So this is now not our integrated MQTT broker. Now we really copy the values to another MQTT broker. I think this is this one. Yeah, and now we see here the data from the S7 objects, PLC, data blocks, and so on. The data is incoming, and also from the other OPC server, and also from my home automation. Yeah. And just show in Apache Kafka. You can also see now that the values are also coming into this Apache Kafka, what I have running here, and you see the incoming values. Let's turn off this one. And maybe just last thing here, yeah, for MQTT, we can specify here the format, and we can now say, okay, I want to publish the data to spark-plug-b. Start it again. So in the spark-plug-b message format, yeah. So now we have the data here encoded, let's say, as a spark-plug-b message. Yeah. And also, maybe also worth to mention here is the same is also possible in the other way around. So when I connect to a MQTT broker, yeah, to get data out of it, yeah, as a driver, then we can also say this the source is spark-plug-b format, and then the gateway reads that spark-plug-b message from the broker, and then of course it is decoding it, and then we can write it again to databases, or we can also publish it to OPC UA servers. So that means it is getting spark-plug-b messages, and it publishes it as a OPC UA server in, of course, the usual OPC UA format. Yeah, and you can also log spark-plug-b messages into databases. Yeah, I think that's all. I mean, for sure, there are also some more use cases and more possibilities, but I think that's enough for now.
I just loved it. Someone like me as an automation engineer without that much deep knowledge in programming, this is pretty handy. To be honest, it just saves a lot of time in many projects. And again, you should all remember that this is an open source project. If you want to implement such a thing yourself, you need a lot of learning and time and heavy lifting to implement it. Definitely, this is an open source project, as you may have used open source project before. Basically open source project live based on the contribution. So Andreas is one expert, but definitely I'm pretty sure, maybe I don't want to talk on behalf of you, Andreas, you can also mention, I'm pretty sure he's open to contribution also, because this is on the GitHub as well. If you have some time, if you are interested in this project, definitely reach out to Andreas, and he will be happy to have more collaboration. And if you want to contribute to this project, because I'm pretty sure these type of projects are the future, because there are a lot of controversial discussion going on about the data semantic and so on. But personally, what I believe the future is more like a query based. Of course, you can define the rigid body structure for your data. There's nothing wrong with that, but we cannot call that very smart. But in the future, what I would like to see something like GraphQL. You have a lot of OT devices. Definitely, you cannot convince all the vendors and different OEMs and so on to build their machine based on your semantics and rules. But if there is such a tool and gateway in the middle that you can query the data regardless of the data structure and semantic, it would be very beneficial for everyone. At least my personal perspective. But I want to ask Andreas about overall, what do you see this project in the future, maybe next year or next 5 years? And overall, is there any feature that you are currently working on or you are thinking about adding to the Frankenstein Gateway?
Hmm. That's very good questions. Yeah, to be honest, I do not have a concrete plan. Let's say, yeah, maybe I already thought about to create Frankenstein Junior or so. So they have a version 2 or so. And yes, of course, you mentioned that the contribution is, of course, welcome. Yeah, recently someone used it and tried it out, yeah, for a project, and he also found one issue, yeah, with some kind of an OPC UA server. And yeah, then he also provided more or less a fix and contributed. And then, of course, I modified it a little bit and made it more round, let's say. And yeah, this was really, really cool. Yeah. Also, first of all, to see that someone is again using it. And of course, don't forget there's also a donate button somewhere on GitHub. But unfortunately, most of the people, yeah, that's the, let's say, dark side, let's say, of open source. Yeah, most of the people are using it, but don't contribute, and also they don't donate. Yeah,
That's a
and
great point to support, the open source project, including this great gateway. At least for myself, I did the first time when I opened the project. You can start a project, right? You can, because it increased the the ranking of the project on GitHub, it gets more attention and attraction with other users who are maybe interested, but they don't really know there's such a great tool and project is going on. And definitely, as Andreas mentioned, donate something. I mean, buy him a coffee or something like that. Not just this project. I mean, overall, that's what I also sometimes try to do in different open source project, because a lot of heavy lifting is going on behind the scene, and these are not really easy project that someone do in a weekend or something. It needs a lot of effort and time and dedication.
I mean, the initial intention was, of course, not to earn money with it. Yeah, it's open source. It was my private fun playground. Yeah. But of course, when you then hear that someone is using it in production somewhere and maybe also wants to integrate it in his product, and then that one earns money. Yeah. But this is a discussion, let's say, generally about open source. Yeah. So I mentioned at the beginning that there's no user interface. Yeah, in the automation gateway, so everything is based on this simple YAML configuration. Yeah, but some time ago, a colleague started to let's think about to create a user interface, but unfortunately, he also did not find time to really do it. Yeah, that would be maybe something. I mean, I personally don't need it. Yeah, but I think maybe some users which are used to use a simple graphical user interface to define OPC server and then maybe drag and drop them together and to create this visually, this what I do in the YAML file. Yeah, well, maybe it could be helpful, and maybe that will be in the future. Yeah, then it can be some kind of an IoT platform, let's say, or something like that. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
again, personally, Andreas, maybe I just wanna put you in an argument or controversial topic about OPC UA versus the MQTT, and overall the topic of a unified namespace or unified architect or whatever we want to call it. Again, I personally mentioned that what I think it's the future. This is a great project. I hope this project grows as much as I mentioned, that you can query any data from any device without really need to have any semantic. Basically, it's up to the end user that how they want to structure the data on their end. But you really can't really, I mean, you can ask them, but definitely based on the experience, my experience at least, and I'm pretty sure about yours as well in the past 10 years, it's very hard to convince everyone to follow one standard. So something like this that you can just query the data would be very beneficial. And overall, I think it really doesn't matter whether you use MQTT, OPC UA, even legacy protocols like Modbus and so on. So the system or gateway in the middle should be smart enough to handle all of these inquiries. Definitely, again, having a rigid data structure and semantic, no, there's no problem, but that's not really a future of OT or Industry 4.0. Well, I just want to ask you, what do you think about overall, MQTT, OPC UA, and overall the UNS, and overall all this discussion that going on online and on social media?
Yeah, this is a very hot topic currently. Yeah, ongoing OPC UA, let's say, versus MQTT or UNS, let's say, however you call it. Uh, it's really hard to the right tool for the right thing, let's say. So I personally think even if I have created the gateway because I think OPC UA is too complicated for the IT guys, but still I think OPC UA has a lot of benefits, and especially when you think about the information models and so, and you have a well-defined structure and everything is well-defined. Yeah, that is a big plus compared to MQTT. Yeah, there is nothing specified. Yeah, and also even if you say the UNS is a great concept. Let's say really cool idea, but it's very simple, and that's also very important. I think. Yeah, because simplicity really matters. And but on the other hand, because more or less nothing else is described. Yeah, this can maybe lead to problems afterwards. Yeah, so you can start fast, yeah, by getting the data to this UNS, but then you end up in a lot of different data content, let's say, in data formats there. Yeah, maybe you will have later then problems to not have a unified, let's call it unified data data format or so. Yeah, maybe that could be a problem. To be honest, I don't know really. Yeah, of course, and and to be able to query everything. Yeah, I mean it's a good point. what you mentioned, query the data. Yeah, I personally also would love to see a little bit more functionality also in the gateway with this GraphQL, because currently the GraphQL capabilities are very, very simple. Yeah, so it's really basic stuff. Yeah, and also, of course, also all the other stuff. OPC UA, yeah, there's a lot of things in OPC UA ongoing. So I've implemented the basics, yeah, and of course, maybe some things are not supported or so, but that will grow step by step, I would say. Yeah, about MQTT, OPC UA, I think it's enough. There are a lot of discussions out there
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah, I think what I see personally is, I don't know, I should say sadly, but there are two different groups that basically one of them, one group love OPC UA, one of them exactly hates OPC UA. But we should always remember, it's always not one versus another. You should think about how you can use both. Why not use all the technology that is available there? But of course, you can't just say, OPC UA is bad because it's huge and, not many people implement it. Personally, I think OPC UA is a very, great standard, but definitely the implementation could be hard because, again, it's very comprehensive.
Yeah, but that is also maybe one of the problems of OPC UA. Yeah, I mean, you can certify OPC UA servers, no problem at all. Yeah, you can do that, but that does not necessarily mean that it provides all of the functionality of all of the specs which are available. Yeah, and then you have clients which are not capable of some functionality, and then you don't have this compatibility. Yeah. On the other hand, it is good that there are a lot of different things available and find that one what you need for your use case. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think maybe I already mentioned it at the beginning. Yeah. I'm personally also a fan of simplicity, and I really think that is also one point why MQTT is getting so popular, yeah, because it is so damn simple. Yeah. But again, yeah, maybe the simplicity at the beginning can lead to troubles at the end, let's say. Yeah. Also, I mean, guide your customers. Yeah, tell them what is the best thing for his use case. But at the end of the day, and also sometimes the customers itself have experts, and they can decide what they want to use. So be open for both worlds. And also the automation gateway is some kind of a, of a glue point, let's say, yeah, to connect OPC UA with MQTT and so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also this data ops is getting also currently very famous, and data ops is also very similar to that. Get data from A, get data from B, combine the data and publish it in the format C or so. Yeah.
I think our role as an OT more specialist, but like someone like you as an IT and OT specialist, is more about preparing the data because I see there's just a lot of trends going on. When people talk about IoT and IIoT, in my opinion, IoT and IoT has nothing really to do with AI. Let's say AI is one level above IoT and IoT. Our role is just simplifying, as you say, in a simple way getting the data from the field to a database or let's call it UNS or any centralized or distributed database. And then from that point, AI engineers or data scientists can use those data and so on. So as you mentioned, I'm also a big fan of simplicity. Maybe that's why I kind of got attracted to Python because as you mentioned, there are just many libraries. So I hope we see
Absolutely.
more of that in the OT environment. And definitely one of the main reason I'm really big fan of this Frankenstein Gateway is because it's simple, right? It's just basically just one YAML file, define your server, your topic structure, and then you have the data and you can query the data. Whether if you are an automation technician or technologist or engineer, commissioning engineer, at least you should try to keep your knowledge updated and at least know what's going on. Don't be worried to try new things and get into more on the IT side. But at the same time, what my suggestion based on my experience, don't confuse yourself because right now there's just too much data, too much information. I go to some webinars on the OT and IoT, and some people start talking about generative AI and so on. But don't just stay focused on one area, data integration, and then different protocols. And then, as I mentioned, after that, it's a data and AI stage, which you could go into that step as well. But as an automation engineer, you don't really have to because there are just a big group of people and professionals already using those technologies. Thank you very much, Andreas. I think it was a very great session. I'm definitely looking forward to use this automation gateway in one project that I can think of. And again, I'm a big fan of and supporter of open source. It has a lot of pros and of course some cons. It's great job. Yeah, and thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And if you have any final comments, you want to say something to the listener, the stage is yours.
I think we covered a lot of things. We talked about a lot of things. Really great. Again, thanks for having me. Maybe just one last hint. Yeah, with the gateway, we can publish data to MQTT brokers and so. And as a one more sideline, let's say I'm also a fan of Unity 3D, this gaming engine. Yeah, and I think this kind of tools can also be greatly used also in the industrial space. And I also have some assets in the asset store where you can get easily data out of MQTT and also directly from my Frankenstein Gateway. Point in time, it's also time to jump into the world of 3D, also for the industry.
Definitely, yeah. I did thank you for bringing that up because, again, as I said, this is not the only project that Andreas is working on. I've seen his also project on the Unity and, bringing MQTT into the Unity. Maybe we can have another session and discussion about that. Just go and check Andreas' LinkedIn and I think he also has a YouTube channel and website.
If you Google a little bit about Min's open architecture and Min's unified, maybe you will find some sources written by me. Yeah?
Exactly. And by the way, congratulations. I saw the one of your LinkedIn posts recently. The WinCC OA nodes are now certified for Node-RED, which is very great because I know Node-RED and low code is also getting a lot of attraction these days. So it's great to have more nodes for some customers and users.
So, maybe also one note here from my side. I mean, Node-RED is pretty amazing and pretty great. Also using it at home for simple things. But also here, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of this no-code, low-code stuff. I mean, it's really good for easy and simple things. But I personally think when you can come to a point where all of this visual connected nodes and logic and so can get more confusing and more complicated than if you just program it in a programming language. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's again, it depends on the use case. Yeah, for simple stuff, really amazing and cool. I'm sure there are other people out there who say, no, I use this for the most complex things ever. But I personally would not advise that.
Exactly. I think that's how the online discussions work because there are some fans and there are some we can call it enemy or whatever. But yeah, Node-RED also
maybe also because I'm a programmer still in my heart.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's just a great tool or gadget in our toolbox, we can call it, for simple things. Exactly as you mentioned. I also didn't like it before. I started using it for some simple project, especially for my smart home, as you mentioned. It's great for simple tasks. It's very simple in just a couple seconds, drag and drop, everything is done. But at the same time, as you mentioned, when the program gets bigger or the flow gets bigger, it's just very complicated to track, which node goes where and so on. You have to click on every. The debugging, that's what I found, it gets very complicated. But of course, for low code and, for those who don't know any programming language, it could be a great tool and gadget. All right. Thank you very much again, Andreas, for your time and great job on the automation gateway. I'm looking forward to see more feature and overall updates. I know you're actively working on that on this automation gateway. And for all of you who are watching this podcast, I hope it was useful for you. And if you have any suggestion and comments and message for Andreas, feel free to comment here or even directly reach out to him. He's very friendly and active in social media, so you know how to find him. Just search his name. He's very famous. So thank you very much, and until the next time, you have a great day or night. And Andreas, if you have any final words.
It was a great session, a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Andreas.
Again, it's a rich thing.